Mike, Patrick, thank you so much both for presenting on scorecards that drive improvement and then taking some more time out to talk to me about some questions and then get into the Q&A here. So thank you.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about jargon first. What's maybe one term or one concept that you think everyone should know?
At our company is really concentrated on the gross margin, is just so people understand what goes into it. So our leaders know a lot of the things from the labor to the materials, the things that they can affect is the biggest one that they can do to help us hit our financial goals.
So gross margin.
Gross margin.
Patrick, what would you add?
I was going to say gross margin is the first one. Second one is EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. That's basically for us, it's the bottom line metric that we look at that says how well we're doing as a company. And it's a tool that the financial industry uses to compare to other companies. It makes an even playing ground. And companies are bought and sold on EBITDA. Yeah.
How many multiples can we get, right?
Exactly. It's always how many multiples can we get?
Yeah. That I think answers my next question. If not, then maybe you've got something to add to it. But what's one metric that you think everyone should know at the company?
For our company, we're a medical device company.
Yeah.
And quality is just huge for us. Is nobody wants a medical part that doesn't work, right? And so one of the key metrics our company has is called quality acceptance. Is how many of the parts that we send out never have a complaint.
Okay.
And so it's how many millions of parts we sold, over how many parts did the customer not complain about. And complaints can be anything. I mean, our pricing was wrong. A certificate that went with the part wasn't right. It's a lot of times our complaints are paperwork. And so, but because it's a medical product, if the paperwork isn't right, they can't use it, they can't sell it.
Okay, so on the quality side, and that of course influences your EBITDA at the end of the day too.
Absolutely.
But everyone's got to know this quality metric.
Yep, in our company, it's one of the two key metrics that that we actually do bonuses for everyone in the company off of.
Well, of course you got their attention then.
Yes.
Love it. Okay, Mike, how about you? One metric that everyone should know.
Yep. At our company, it's the number of mugs produced. Everybody knows that one. They see it month to month. And it's also because that number there helps dictate what's going to get paid out in profit sharing.
Okay, I'm curious. How many mugs? What's a good number? What's that look like?
Like in a given month and stuff, somewhere between 60 and 65,000 mugs.
That's a lot of mugs.
It is a lot.
Okay, now, Mike, you kind of talked about this in your presentation, so I want to revisit it. What do you do to make sure that people don't get lost in the numbers? Like you mentioned red and green. I liked how you didn't mention yellow, but what else do you do to make sure that people don't get lost in addition to color coding?
Well, I mean, I think a big part of it though is the color coding and stuff like that because it's a lot easier for them to do. But we concentrate a lot on the averages and stuff. Is if we're going to have, if I'm going to have 15,000 mugs a week, I have to do 3,000 a day. So our departments start focusing on things like that as to what can they control. And if I get behind, what do I have to do labor-wise, or do I have to push labor to another department to hit that goal?
What would you add?
Well, for me, it's really comes down to the electronic dashboards. That by having the numbers displayed electronically, it's everybody's looking at the same numbers. And if someone says, I don't believe those numbers, they can drill down to the details. So it's kind of like they don't have to look at the details, but if they're really curious on how did we get there, they can drill down to the details. So now they're not having to do their own research. And so we're all singing off the same song sheet.
So with that drill down, those top level numbers, and then being able to double click and see where it came from, does that help focus improvement? And or if that's not your primary method to help focus improvement, what is?
For me, that is a lot of the focus for improvement, because once they see, like in our case, let's say there's a couple hundred jobs that are completed in a month. And by being able to drill down, they can look at the 3 worst jobs And so they can have that conversation. What went wrong, and what are we going to do differently? What help do I need to make sure that we don't have that problem again?
What do you do to trigger that conversation? Because that's a vital, like after action review, kind of lessons learned conversation. What triggers that conversation to happen kind of systematically?
So one is we have a weekly management review, like on standard costs review, that metric. Weekly, we get together with the production managers and the accounting team and the VP of operations, and we go through first, here's how you did, and then we do some of the drill downs and say, these are the ones that didn't go well, these are the ones that went well. The production people, they already know what we're going to talk about because they have the same dashboard. So they come prepared to say, here's what we're going to do differently, and here's what kind of help I need.
No surprises.
No surprises.
Anything you'd add to this one?
No, it's I really like how you can drill down on those. It's pretty impressive. As we have some different static ones where we have more in the morning, you know what happened yesterday and stuff like that. So it gives a little bit of guidance to people more real time instead of for them running their own reports. We just have that summary. The drill down is really cool though. That would be pretty neat.
I want to ask you guys this next question because I've seen operations and finance argue over it. Operations is trying to support everyone making improvements, but oftentimes someone will come up with an idea and it does make their job like better and less painful, or just fix maybe something that bugs them. But it doesn't always show up in the numbers. How do you help as a financial leader make sure that these operational improvements also show up in the scorecards and in the finances?
It's a really good question. Been at this a long time, and it's like, sometimes when you try to justify your improvements, whatever, and stuff like that, it's like it can be a little overkill. I've always been a big one, learned this through a number of speakers through manufacturing alliances. Just small improvements add up eventually. So even though it doesn't directly tie into a department metric or scorecard right now, your little improvements are helping somewhere. And I like to encourage that is because some people can have big, huge, drastic changes, and there's a lot of people that don't have access to that. And you just want to encourage your people, especially on the finance side. It's not all about justifying or doing an ROI on an improvement. It's like, don't go that route. It's like you can do a lot of smaller things.
Yeah, some of those things that would really add up, and by the time you do all the ROIs on every little thing, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Any other experience or advice?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to discourage people from making improvements, right? And so at our company, we have a recognition system. And the way our recognition system works, anybody can recognize anyone else in the company. And so if somebody sees someone doing something good, they're encouraged to recognize them. And they submit a recognition. And there's actually awards that are tied to those recognitions. You get points, and those points add up, and you can buy stuff with those points. So our recognition system encourages people to always make improvements, and for them to get recognized for that. And one of the things we do is once a quarter, we actually categorize all the recognitions categorized, and we ask our employees to vote for the best recognitions. And we give a quarterly prize in 5 different categories. So 5 different categories, people will get a prize for being the highest recognized individual. And the whole population gets to vote on it. So it's not a management, peer-to-peer.
Yeah, and then they get the cool swag and whatever else.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, what about the opposite side? So those are maybe the smaller ones that maybe don't show up right away in the scorecard, but you're building a great culture and eventually they add up. What about some of the medium-sized improvements or the bigger improvements where there's going to be some investment and you've got to justify that investment? What's a really good way to develop that ROI, the calculation, and how to present the case for change?
Every once in a while we get those, sometimes you get a crazy idea and you're like, God, that could cost a lot of money. And it's like, and they know it. But it's kind of fun to kind of work through it with them is by, looking at labor. We just did an analysis, it was the beginning of last year and stuff, just on our product line. And it was great because it was like, I think we could do this and this and this. And part of it was just helping them find some information. They did a lot of the legwork, but help them do some projections in doing that. Sometimes, I enjoy doing that. I'm always looking for different ways to have revenue and profits and stuff like that. And when you get employees that are really invested in that, it's fun to help them with that. They don't always know what's going to happen because I might buy $100,000 piece of equipment. And you're like, oh God, we can't do that. Well, in depreciation, where I spread that out though, and how we're going to do it and how we're going to sell it and ramp it up, all of a sudden you're like, oh, we can actually make money at this. I don't want to shoot them down because some of those crazy ideas turn into something pretty cool.
Yeah.
So.
What about yourself? How have you justified or helped people
Yeah,
create that
I mean,
ROI?
We try to do an ROI on it, and typically when someone brings a project up, we try to do a napkin ROI to begin with. We don't want to spend a lot of time on it if it doesn't make sense, but we try to figure out is what the benefit is, try to monetize that, and then also monetize what's the cost. And the cost isn't just outlay of capital, it's also people's time. And the truth is we don't have unlimited money, we don't have unlimited time. So we try to select those projects that have the biggest benefit offset by the cost and the time that's going to take to implement that. If it's a project that's going to take 2 years to implement and questionable payback, that's going to be really hard to approve versus something that maybe we could do it in a week and get immediate payback. So it doesn't necessarily matter how big it is, it's the ratio of what's the benefit versus the cost. And so we try to pick those with high benefit and relatively low cost. But at the same time as we do capacity planning. And if it shows that we're running out of capacity, we may have to invest in a $2 million press. But we've got the backup that says, hey, I'm running out of capacity in this press, and this is based on our sales projection, when we're going to run out. We need to plan for this because we're not going to turn down sales.
Yes, if you can land that $5, $10, $20 million order, right?
Right.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Especially if those contracts are multi-year. The other thing that I see a lot of members do is they'll filter out the ideas using EOS. A lot of members use EOS and they go, okay, is this going to help us get closer to our company rocks? And then if it is, that's, like pass one, and the other, pass two is like, well, then will it help us get closer to the quarterly rocks? And then, okay, if that's going to pass that gate, then, hey, maybe we should turn this into a to-do, or maybe this in and of itself should be a rock as a way to be able to filter it and then find a path forward.
Yeah, and quite frankly, most of our investments are coming off of rocks.
Yeah.
In our cases, our objectives for the year define, okay, here's what we need to achieve. Well, what do we need to do to achieve that? And a lot of times it is an investment. It's either investment in time or resources. And so then you track that. And then you make sure that you're achieving the plans that you originally set out in your objectives.
Some people that watch this are just getting started and they think this is very aspirational and they want to take the next step. For those that are just starting to create a more sophisticated, more formal scorecard, what do you guys recommend they do? Like, what's the first couple of steps?
Start small. Start with a few things. Just start looking at some of the key metrics and start doing it. I've been doing scorecards for probably 20 some years. They change every year. They change during the year, sometimes, whatever. The activities and stuff is you're trying to target what's key for you. And you see some people that get out there and right away, it's like, we got 25 metrics and stuff, and that's what they're starting with. It's overwhelming. And then, Patrick had said it in his presentation, as part of it is having an owner for each line. So if you do have a line on your metrics, somebody should own that, because then it's like you can get a little bit better story to it. But then it's like when they do get off track, you got one person to go to start targeting that. So when you have 25, it starts getting hard. So a good key metric is, start with 7 to 8. Right now on our scorecard and stuff, like on our leadership one and stuff, I think we have 17 right now, and we've built up to that.
What are maybe one or two off of that 7 or 8 that you could share?
Sure. Like the quantity ordered is the big one that we start looking at. We do look at what was thrown for the prior week. We look at our losses. We look at what was billed. Look at quantity billed, dollars billed. Things like that. We have how many, like our kilns, how many times did they run? That's a big deal. So when it goes up or down, we know if we're doing better or not. So those are some of the key things that are that snapshot that we just want to see at a company level.
Yeah, and I could see the categories as you're talking. Couple in sales, couple in operations, couple like high level financial.
Yeah. I mean, none of our leaders have more than 5, I would guess, right now. No more than 5. And like I have 2 from the finance side. I have number of mugs billed in dollars.
I won't ask if they're red or green.
This month green, last month no.
What other advice would you add for those just starting out? Start small, I think, is a sound approach. What would you add?
Yeah, start out small. Second is make sure that you start out with corporate objectives that the executive team, the leadership team backs, and then make sure that as they get drilled down to the lower levels, what the scorecards for the lower levels have to be in alignment with the executive team. Because if they start working on project that the executive team's not supporting, it could just cause conflict, and then it'll be frustrating. It's kind of like, well, I'm not achieving this. Well, we didn't ask you to work on that. So you want to make sure everybody's aligned. And then that way you make sure that the executive team is making sure you have the resources you need to be successful, because it's what they want to accomplish too.
What's it look like at the executive level or corporate level? You mentioned EBITDA. Maybe there's some other high level examples that are, top level tier 4 scorecard type, metrics on a scorecard.
I mean, obviously sales revenue is a big one for us, but we track new product revenue.
Okay.
So it's not just important that our sales are growing, but where are they coming from? How much new products that are being introduced? What's the revenue that's generating? It's a very important metric. We spend a lot of money on development. Is their development being successful? We're developing new products. What's the sales from those new products? We set objectives for that. And the people that are scorecarded on that is the product development teams. Yep. It's the sales teams. And they're all a part of that, right?
So there's certain ratios I'm envisioning then on your scorecard that say, hey, we want 20% or maybe 15% of our total revenue to come from products that have been launched or jobs that have been launched in the last 12 or 24 months, whatever those milestones are.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Anything else on that scorecard at that corporate level to start there?
Like in our case, an interesting one is we have a scorecard on number of operators. It's on our executive scorecard. And you go, why would you have number of operators executive scorecard? It's because our machines are very complex. And if we're going to grow at 20% a year, we have to grow our operators at 20% a year. And it takes us a year to get an operator up to speed to do a complex job. So if we're not planning ahead and getting those operators, we're not going to be able to produce the products that achieve that revenue. So there's one that was very specific. Is kind of like, that is key to us. We can hire people, tech people that don't need a lot of experience, but these operators are key, and we have a long-term training program to get them up to, and we actually track by what level they're at. We have to have so many at level 1, so many level 2, so many level 3s, because depending on the complexity of the job, we may need master operators to do these particular jobs.
Yeah, he's got to match those up, skill with the expectation of the customer.
Exactly.
And all those internal processes. Guys, I want to go even deeper. So that's when they're going to get started. You got to maybe start small, 3, 5, 7 to 8 at most, and then make sure the executives or corporate is aligned with other scorecards and projects in the organization. Now take it one step further. What is maybe that next 2 or 3, 4 metrics that they might add to the scorecard, as they look to really dial things in? Are we going to be looking at like sales per head count? To be able to balance, when should we hire? Because I hear that all the time. I wish we had more people on the team. And it's like, no, we know there's capacity. You mentioned capacity planning. I just mentioned that last metric. What's maybe one more metric that they should add to the scorecard after they get started to help dial things in financially?
Do you want to start with that one?
Well, and I talked about we've got manufacturing efficiency. Yeah. We actually track running to standard. So 2 years ago, we went to standard costing. Prior to that, we were actual costing. Actual costing, we couldn't compare to anything. And it was just, are we doing good? Yeah, our gross margins are good or they're not good. If they weren't good, why? Well, was it because we didn't raise our prices? Is it because our costs went up? Is it because manufacturing is not doing a good job? We couldn't answer any of those questions. So once we went to standard costs, now we can actually track um, price increases. We have a plan for pricing for our materials. Are we beating our plan for pricing?
And that's huge these days,
It is today.
with tariffs.
Yep. And so and as a result of that, we actually added a special category that we report on when we do our pricing variances is how much of it's tariff related. And so that we can say, this was out of the blue, but how bad of an impact is this having for us? Yeah. And then this is how we doing against plan. Because on our purchasing, we basically set a goal that we'd have no price increases beyond plan. Now, we planned on some price increases, but no price increases beyond plan. And we actually set a secondary goal of $500,000 in cost avoidance that they're tracking.
Now, give me a quick definition on cost avoidance, because a lot of people think of cost savings, but I know you're thinking of something different. And once you give me that definition, then you get the last word, one last metric before we wrap.
So in the case of purchasing, cost avoidances is where suppliers have actually said your price is going up 5%, and then we negotiate it down.
Perfect. One last metric you think people should add to ratchet up and dial things in?
Ratchet up. Kind of look at your key metric, your production metric and stuff like that is a big one for us. For us is, I mentioned that we hand throw every mug. So I have potters. I can't just click that on and, I'm dealing with that human body producing something. So like when I'm looking at my metrics for how I'm going to grow, I have to grow like this. I can't grow like this unless I add people. But when I add people, I have a ramp up period too. So even if I added 2 potters, my sales are still going to go like this. So it's one of our key things that we look at is look at your most critical thing that is your sales driver or how you could increase or decrease things and probably concentrate a few things on that because it's easy for me as a finance guy. It's like, oh, we're just going to throw an extra 3,000 mugs next week, whatever. Not realistic and can't happen. So it's not going to be a real number and stuff like that. So you have to be really realistic about what your inputs are there and stuff like that. So it's like on our metrics, it's funny because it's like, well, why do you have throw it on there and stuff like that? It's a very key thing because unless I throw it, I can't produce it or sell it. So it's just like on machines. If I don't have the machines to do it, and for me, I can't just say, you know what, Kirby, I need you to throw an extra 100 today. You're tired after you already threw your allotment and stuff like that. So you can't deal with that. Whereas when you have a machine, I can run it overtime. I can do all things like that. So they have different challenges, but it's a little bit, it's way different than ours. So concentrate on that is a big one.
Perfect. Well, Mike, Patrick, thank you both so much for sharing, your scorecards, what's working, what's not, and then going deeper into this Q&A. So thank you for making time.
Thank you.
If you liked these real world best practices and want to continue to compare and share with a group of your peers in finance, then take a look at the form below the player. Just fill that out. You can request more information to learn about our finance executive peer group. Fill that out. We'll share more about it, see if it's a good fit for you, and maybe even have you attend a session as our guest. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next month.